All right, stand by. 10 seconds.
Camera one.
Talent.
Ready, camera two.
And talent.
One.
Roll for record.
It was a loud and contentious Democratic debate, but will it make a difference? I'm John Phillips, and this is The Rundown. Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders fought over health care and many other issues, but the real knives came out when she hit him for being too pro-gun, and he hit her for being too cozy with Wall Street. As the race tightens, the Hillary campaign has clearly started taking the challenge of Bernie Sanders very seriously. And Sanders, while he still won't target Hillary's vulnerabilities on her email scandal, Benghazi, or Bill Clinton's mistreatment of women, is nonetheless taking the gloves off to land some significant blows of his own. By the way, blows and Clinton, they're synonymous, like peanut butter and jelly. During the debate, Sanders positioned himself as the candidate opposing the status quo, while Hillary hitched her wagon to President Obama. One political observer even tweeted, "If Hillary hugged Obama any tighter tonight, Michelle would have had to step in." But will anyone notice the shifts? Ratings show the debate was a complete snooze fest, with only slightly over than 10 million people tuning in. And that's deliberate. As we've discussed on this show before, a cabal of Hillary Clinton supporters at the DNC selected dates and times. And this last debate, by the way, was on the Sunday evening in the middle of a holiday weekend to limit the chances of a challenger snaking the presidential nomination away from Hillary, as Obama did back in 2008. They have long memories. There are signs that the strategy isn't working, though. Sanders' popularity, particularly in the early voting state of New Hampshire, is growing by leaps and bounds. And whether he's raising the issue or not, the public is still very concerned about the Hillary scandals. In fact, a top Google search just before the debate was, "Will Hillary Clinton get prosecuted?" Ouch. Finally, Martin O'Malley, the third candidate in the race, spent much of the debate just begging for screen time. The NBC moderators appropriately ignored him. So will Bernie's insurgent anti-Wall Street game plan give him a win? Will Hillary's embrace of Barack Obama backfire? And could someone, please, just someone, give Martin O'Malley 10 seconds? That's all he wants. To explore these questions and much, much more, we're joined by our pal Scott Ott, PJTV contributor and political satirist in his home studio in Dallas, Texas, and here in Southern California, stand-up comic and PJTV contributor Stephen Kruiser. All right, Kruiser, so they've done all these Democratic debates on weekends, holidays, the television Siberia, as Rachel Maddow referred to it, so that no one would actually watch them and no one would have a chance at catching up to Hillary Clinton, like what happened in 2008. According to polls, Bernie has caught her in Iowa, he's caught her in New Hampshire, and now she is out there saying, well, South Carolina is a firewall, so it doesn't matter. Has this backfired on Hillary?
It's backfired for a number of reasons. First of all, the mere fact that they did it and were so overt about it got everybody talking about it right away. They created more press for these debates by trying to shove them off in the corner than if they had just kind of gone about it in a normal fashion. Secondly, social media is even more prominent now than it was back in 2008, and this entire debate's available on YouTube. It was right after the debate. You can start pulling clips off of this and flying them all around, and that's what people were doing as soon as this happened, because this is the first debate where Bernie Sanders looked like he got out of his, wow, I can't believe I made it this far mode, and moved into, hey, I might want to try to win this thing mode. And so it really is backfiring terribly. It's not, he hasn't caught her in New Hampshire. He's up by 30 in one poll, 27 points in the newest poll coming out of New Hampshire. He's trouncing her in New Hampshire and trending upwards. And James Clyburn, the representative from South Carolina, said, I believe early at the beginning of the week, he said, if he wins in New Hampshire and wins in Iowa, trounces her in New Hampshire, her South Carolina firewall could crumble quickly.
Could be true. Now, Scott, I've spent a lot of time, as have all of us on this program, watching the Republican debates, of which there have been many more than the Democratic debates. And one thing is true, and that is this. All of them, maybe except for Jeb, and I'll actually throw Jeb into this category as well, have gotten better over time. The more they debate, the better they are on camera, the better they are at answering the questions, the better they are at going after one another. Hillary Clinton has only had a few of these debates, and the Democrats only have 2 more scheduled. Is she going to build up some rust by the time they get to the general election, assuming she's the nominee? And is this going to come back and haunt her in ways that can really bite the Democrats?
Well, there's a reason that football teams practice. You know, it's so that, and scrimmage especially, it's so that on, Saturday night or Sunday in the NFL, so that they can play better. And Hillary Clinton is already rusty. I mean, she was a rust bucket to begin with. And if anything, what you saw in this most recent Democratic debate was a more confident Bernie Sanders. Bernie seemed to have lost all sense of intimidation that might come from somebody who was a former First Lady, former Senator, Secretary of State, and all this kind of stuff. And she's just Hillary now. And he is bold in his proclamations of his beliefs. He knows that when he speaks frankly about what he truly believes, that democratic socialist view that he has, that he will be embraced. And Hillary just comes across as this monotone machine that isn't getting any better. She's not learning from her mistakes. The only mystery to me is why Martin O'Malley is at less than 1%. Martin O'Malley would seem to me would be the ideal Democratic candidate, a city mayor, a state governor, a guy who's literally a rock star. He can play the electric guitar, he's young, he speaks well, he's handsome, and somehow these two decrepit geezers are kicking his butt.
Yeah, I think there was a barbecue in Baltimore that caused him a lot of problems. Maybe not for the Democratic primary voters, but the public in general would hold that against him. Are you surprised, looking at this field and looking at what we've seen on that stage, that Joe Biden hasn't changed his mind and jumped in as a late entry? Because if someone credible was on that stage and was really taking it to her, I think she could easily be beaten.
I think that the DNC has been perhaps chatting up the vice president quite a bit in recent weeks anyway as a contingency plan. I think with the recent news from the inspector general about her actually passing along top secret information, they may have had lunch or dinner by now. I'm pretty sure. See, the Democrats are in as big a panic right now over potential outcomes in this primary as the Republicans are. You're just not going to read about it as much in the press. I mean, it's always, anytime there's any contentiousness with the Republicans, it's all day, all night Republican civil war. Same thing's going on with the DNC and worrying about Hillary not being the nominee and maybe Bernie's insurgency taking over, and they're just not talking about it. But I bet there's a lot of background Biden discussion going on. I don't think he's going to jump in on his own. I think he's going to have to be drafted. I think they're going to have to know that there's an indictment coming for Hillary or something like that, and they're going to bring him in.
You know, Scott, one of the things that Bill Clinton used to his advantage when he was president for those 8 years is he knew exactly where to attack the Republicans. He attacked Republicans on Medicare. He made it seem like Republicans wanted to kick grandma and grandpa out to the curb, and the public bought it. And he won a lot of states that have older electorates. He won in places like Kentucky and Florida and West Virginia and Pennsylvania, places where Republicans outside of Pennsylvania have done well in elections since then. But Hillary Clinton's attacks on Bernie Sanders, really, particularly in the area of healthcare, made no sense to me. She's to the right of Bernie Sanders on healthcare. She wants to keep Obamacare on the books. He wants to get rid of it and replace it with essentially Medicare for all. In a Democratic primary where you have true blue left-wingers pulling the levers and making the decisions, that gives Bernie Sanders a strategic advantage over Hillary. Yet she decided to attack him on that and essentially portray him as having the same position as the Republicans. Oh, you want to get rid of Obamacare. You want to take that off the books. How dare you do that? And to me, she did that as a naked ploy to try to make Bernie Sanders a guy who attacks President Obama, to make sure that black voters in South Carolina and Super Tuesday states think that he is hostile to President Obama. Your thoughts on that bizarre attack?
Well, I think that's absolutely true, and I think you've nailed it because, as I've said, I believe recently, maybe within the last week or so, if Bernie wins Iowa or gives her a good scare in Iowa and then comes anywhere near trouncing her in New Hampshire, we are going to suddenly learn that Bernie Sanders is the worst racist who's ever masqueraded as a Democrat. And that is going to be the line of attack. Hillary Clinton is going to be the friend of black Democrats, and Bernie Sanders is going to be their enemy, and he's attacking President Obama. Now, the Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton was the ace in the hole, so to speak, for Hillary, because everybody loves Bill Clinton, and thanks to Donald Trump in part and others, Bill Clinton has become a boat anchor for Hillary's campaign. You know you've got problems when the New York Times is now reporting what Stephen mentioned earlier, was that Hillary Clinton had highly classified special access emails on her server, which she has denied having, and she had them there, and you got the New York Times reporting that. The New York Times is also reporting the so-called bimbo eruption problem of Bill Clinton, as being a reflection not just of Bill's own personal sexual peccadillos, but of Hillary's weakness when it comes to women's rights, because when she had an opportunity to defend people who were sexually molested and abused, she didn't do it.
I'll give you further evidence that the Clinton campaign is hitting the panic button. They sent Chelsea Clinton, the former first daughter, out on the campaign trail to launch attacks against Bernie Sanders. When you look at how children are used in campaigns, particularly in the case of the Clintons, it's always to humanize the candidate. It's to show Hillary as a loving, doting grandma holding the baby with Chelsea and the husband standing there, and Bill maybe off in the background as well. To use Chelsea this early in the process as an attack dog, almost like how you would use a vice presidential nominee in a general election, was really bizarre and just smacked of desperation.
It really did. And sending her out there like that to hit him on health care made it even worse. Because you mentioned that she's taking this yay, yay, Obamacare stance, and she's hitting him on single payer. Hitting a Democratic candidate on single payer really doesn't offend Democrats. It's not really a strong attack.
It does if you make it a racial attack.
If you make it a racial attack, yeah. But for the most part, most Democrats are like, okay, I wouldn't mind getting there. So it's like that was weird enough on its own. But she's going after him in the strangest place, like that, and the gun thing. The gun thing is obviously not resonating with the American public. That's why the president is doing this. This is more of her, I want to make up with Obama and get him on my side thing. That's why she's going after him hard on the guns. And he gave the Republicans a perfect soundbite on one of the Sunday shows this week about that. He said, hey, look, in rural places, mothers, daughters, fathers, and sons own guns and go out and go hunting. They're not criminals. Most gun owners aren't criminals. This was Bernie Sanders saying this on a Sunday show. Every Republican candidate should grab that soundbite and run with it whenever the gun issue comes up.
If Bernie Sanders were to hit Hillary Clinton on Benghazi, on the emails, on Bill's alleged sexual assaults, would that help him, Scott, or would that backfire on him in a Democratic primary?
I think he's playing this very politically, cagey right now. He's really smart about how he's handling this, because she's getting hammered with this stuff. It's not coming from him. His hands are clean. And in fact, he's publicly saying, look, I'm not going to go after the stuff that the Republicans are going after. But she is clearly paying a price for what other people are saying. And I think that's good political strategy. When your opponent is being dragged down by this relentless drip, drip, drip in the news, don't just stand back, hand her a shovel and let her keep digging. So I don't think it's going to hurt Bernie. I think Bernie is going to be smart to not do that. And what he's wisely doing is hammering her on issues where they have disagreements. And I think he's coming down, frankly, in the mainstream of the primary voters in a Democratic primary.
All right, Scott Ott, you get the last word. That's all the time we have for today, but now it's your turn. Who won the Democratic debate, and will Hillary's ties to Obama help or hurt her? Tell us what you think in the comment section below. I'm John Phillips. Thanks so much for watching The Rundown.